Hey everyone, it is Bobby and I'm here to give you a tutorial on how to size your photos properly for the photogravure slash photo Intaglio process that we're currently doing in printmaking. So there are two options for the plates for the printing. One is a 4x5 inch, the other is a 6x8 inch. And so because of that, we need to size your photos properly to fit those plates. And the 4x5 and 6x8 are not common sizes. They're kind of an abnormal size. So I want to make sure to give you the know-how on how to crop it properly so that you as the artist can have in composition the best of the best, right, of your photo. So you can have it exactly how you want it to be printed. And so to give you a little bit of an idea of what I mean by that is this is the template that we will use to print the transparencies for this process. You'll notice that we are making use of a large sheet of paper, and it's because we're using the clear transparency film in order to print these transparency pieces for the plates for that process. And in order to fit the most amount of photos per sheet that we print, we have them all turned in landscape mode. In portrait mode. That doesn't mean that you can't have landscape photos, but it does mean that you have to do one extra step in the process just to make this efficient. And the reason why I'm sending this out again is one, for you as the artist to be able to have the composition that you want in your photo, and you'll see what I mean by that in just a minute. But two, when we go to print these, it's going to take some time to import all of the photos into the template and then to print it all. So if you can have your photos ready to go when we do this on Friday, it will definitely speed up the process and it'll ensure that you get the photo that you want. Now, secondarily, I would ask that for every photo that you edit for this project, you make two of them. You make a 4x5 and a 6x8. That'll just ensure that, like when we were doing the dry point, we ran out of certain sizes of plexiglass. If you walk in there with the intentions of doing a 4x5, but we're out of 4x5 plates and all we have is 6x8, then we may need to do a 6x8 plate for that, right? Or vice versa. So for every image that you are thinking that you would like to do in this process, you're going to resize resize that image to two different sizes, both 4x5 and 6x8. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So the first thing that we're going to do is, let's say I'm going to give you two examples. I'm going to give you a portrait example and I'm going to give you a landscape example. The first one we're going to do is the portrait example because it is going to be the quickest and easiest. And so to do that, I'm going to open up a photo that I've already edited. So we'll do one of these. So the cool thing about this is it was taken with 4x5 film. So it's literally already 4 inches by 5 inches. And it's already in portrait mode or portrait ratio. So it's pretty much done. But you would want to just ensure that this photo is the proper ratio. Now, to do that, when you open, more than likely, you're going to be on whatever tool you used last in Photoshop. Make sure that all of your edits are applied. So this is before my edits. This is after my edits. And then we want to make sure that this is the proper size. So you're going to go to, well, before we do that, let me show you what not to do. So the first thing you don't want to do is you don't want to go to image and go to image size. So here's why. Right now you're seeing that this photo is already in 4x5 inches. So it's already properly sized. But you'll notice that this little thing is linked here. And that's because that's what I cropped this photo at, was 4:5. And so it's naturally locked and linked to that ratio. But let's say we wanted to make this photo that's already set to 4:5 a 6:8 because we want to print it on a 6:8 plate. If I change it to 6:8, well, hold on, before I do that, if I link this back and change this to 6, you'll notice that it automatically sizes it to 7.5 and not 8. And the reason being is because 4:5 is a different ratio than 6:8. And so the same ratio as a 4:5 would actually, in a bigger print, would be a 6:7.5. The problem with that is it's going to leave like bare space. It's going to leave a 1/2 inch of blank space on the plate. And so we don't want that. So if we unlink it and we change it to 8 and then click OK, then what it does is it doesn't crop the photo. It resizes the photo. It stretches the photo to resize it to the ratio that you told it to. And so in this case, you can see that the girls' faces are stretched tall. So it doesn't look normal. It's wrong. It's because it's not. It's wrong. That's not a proper depiction of what their face looks like because it's stretched. So what we'll do is just go back to our normal. So undo that. And now we're back to our normal 5:5. So in this case, since I've already got this one cropped to 4:5, I'm going to show you how to do a 6:8. So you're going to go to the crop tool and you're going to select that. Now when you select the crop tool, more than likely it's going to be on ratio, chances are. But you're going to see that the crop tool actually pops up here on the screen. We're going to switch it to a W by H by resolution. Now, I'm clearing it just so you can see in case yours doesn't populate anything. What it should do is it should populate whatever the ratio of the photo currently is. But in case it doesn't, this is what it might look like. First thing you want to do is make sure that this is selected in pixels/inches. And then the window right next to that, you want to hit 300. Type in 300. Now, the reason why we're typing in 300 is because we are sizing to 300 ppi, which is 300 pixels per inch. That's kind of the standard. Your raw photos, scanned photos, anything like that should always be done in 300 pixels per inch. And then we're doing an actual landscape. So we're doing we want 4 inches wide we're doing a 6:8. So we want 6, and then you're going to hit space, and then hit IN, tab, and then 8, space, IN. And now you'll notice that we have a 6-inch wide by 8-inch tall frame on our photo. Now, here's why I said I want you guys to go ahead and do this ahead of time, is because if you don't, what it's doing is it's cutting out a portion of the photo because it's a different ratio. So if Al was to go in and edit this, right, because you didn't, then he could mess it up. And I'm not saying he would, but I'm saying he could. Or he may not mess it up, but he may look at it in his eye, what he thinks looks good, and that may not be what you're going for. So you want to size it to fit. You want to crop it to fit whatever you think, whatever composition you want, whatever you want the photo to look like. Now, I think this looks pretty good. And when you're done moving your crop frame around, then there are 3 things you can do. You can hit done down here. You can hit this check mark up here, or you can just click on your layers panel over here. And now our photo is cropped to 6:8. Just like that. And you'll notice their faces and stuff still look proportional because that's how it's supposed to be. Because we didn't stretch the image, we just cropped the image to fit the frame. And now you can double check your work to make sure that it's proper by looking at the pixels down here at the bottom. You'll notice that this says 1800 by 2400 pixels at 300 ppi. That's correct. A 6:8 is 1800 pixels by 2400 pixels at 300 ppi. If it was a 4x5, it would say 1200 pixels by 1500 pixels at 300 ppi. So now this is done. We're done. We're ready to print this. So then we're going to go to File, and then we're going to go Save a Copy. I am going to save it for now just to make it easier in this templates folder. And I'm going to say that it is twinning, crop 1, and then this is something, you name it whatever you want, but I would suggest that you do this. So we did this for a 6x8 plate. So I'm going to put 6x8. That way there's no questions. Now for the file type, the only two options that I would recommend for this would be PNG or TIFF. Just in case you don't know the difference. PNG will keep it as high quality as possible, but it will no longer be editable in Photoshop. It's a one and done kind of thing. If you save it as a TIFF, then it's a actual photo. It produces an image, and it's editable again in Photoshop. If you save it as a PSD file, then it's not creating an image. It's just saving your work as a canvas inside of Photoshop. It's not actually exporting an image for you. So you would later have to go back into Photoshop, open that up, and then save it as a file. So in this case, I'm going to save it as a PNG because I know I'm done with it at this point. So click Save. Now, it doesn't save over your current Photoshop file. I still have my current Photoshop file. What I did was, if you noticed, I went to Save a Copy. So it creates a new copy of your work in the way that you save it, in the way that it's edited. We can still go back to the original file, and we can also print this in a 4x5 if we want to. Just like that. Okay. Now, for the sake of just so you guys understand why we're doing what we're doing, let's open up the 6x8 template. And now from here, I can go back to where I saved. Let's get off of that crop tool so we don't mess that up. Let's go back to where we saved our photo. Here it is, twinning crop 1, 6x8. And now we can just drag it in here. And you notice it fills out that template frame perfectly. And now when we print that, it's going to print all the way to the edge of that template line, so that when you cut it out, it fits your 6x8 photogravure plate perfectly. It fills up the whole space. Okay, that's option 1. Option number 2, let's say you have a landscape photo that you took, and I'll do a 2-for-1 on this one. We're going to size this one for the 4x5 template. And let's say it is a landscape shot and it's raw, unedited at this point. So here's one. So you took it with your camera, with your DSLR, you have a raw camera file and it's in landscape. So let's open that up, and because it's raw, it's going to open, the way I have my workflow set up is it opens in camera raw first. I'm opening up the raw image, not a TIFF. And so it's bringing me into camera raw. I would normally make edits here, but I'm not going to for the sake of this video. So I'm going to click open. It's going to bring it to Photoshop. Now, we want to crop this image to be a 4x5, and I want it to be a landscape because I like the way the landscape looks. And when I do my photo Intaglio print in the printmaking room, I want it to be a landscape photo. So to do that, there are a couple of steps. So we're going to go to the crop tool again. We're going to go back up here to our crop settings. Make sure that we're selected on width, by height, resolution. Now, we're going to do a couple of different things. We're going to change this to a 4" by 5" and double check, make sure you're on 300 ppi. And then because it's a landscape photo, we are just going to grab this corner and twist it down. Now we're going to drag this to fit as much as we can, as much of the image as we can. Now if we do that, you'll notice I'm getting just the corner of the top shoe mount on the camera there, and I don't like the way that looks. You could move the composition over here, but then it's going to cut off some of the books, and I don't know if I like that either. I actually like the look of it being over here better. So what we'll do is just resize this a little bit, making sure not to cut off the corner of my elbow there. Something like that. We'll roll with that. Now we'll click done or the check, or we can just click the layers panel over here. And now we have a 4x5 inch 300 ppi photo. The problem is it's not 4x5, it's 5x4 because it's in landscape. For the template that we're using, it needs to be in portrait mode, right? It needs to be in portrait ratio. So to do that, let's zoom out a little bit and then center our work up. Now, you'll notice the crop frame is still around. We're still in our crop tool. We're going to come off the corner of the photo, and you'll notice that the icon changes to a little curve, right? It's showing an arrow on the top and bottom. We're going to click, and we're just going to turn this image like this. Make sure that that says 90 degrees. Now we're going to grab our crop tool, and we're going to drag it back into portrait ratio, and we're just going to stretch it back out till it locks on the borders, and then we're going to click done. Now we have our original crop that we did for our landscape photo, but we've turned the photo so that the computer is tricked into believing that it's a portrait photo. That's important. Now, same process, we'll go to File, Save a Copy, and let's go back into the Templates folder. We're going to do a PNG, and this one's going to be crop 2 4x5. Save that. Keep it in the largest file setting. Now let's jump back over to our 4x5 template. Now, had we saved it as a landscape, when you go to drag it in here, it's going to be a partial landscape. But since we saved it as a portrait, we turned the photo to save it as a portrait. Now when we drag it in here, now you'll notice that it fills up the whole frame like it's supposed to. And obviously, once you print and cut this out, you can turn the plate any way that you want, but it'll still fill up the entire plate, and it'll still work properly within our template. So anyway, guys, that is it. That is how you properly resize for this application in either 4x5 or 6x8. I hope it's helpful, and I am available if you need help with it. You can just email or text me. I think most of you guys have my phone number. Hopefully this answers any questions and allows you to go ahead and prepare all of your work ahead of time before you get to class on Friday. All right, catch you guys later.